Unmuted Newsroom. This is Black Headlines by Black Alerts.
Well, welcome to Black Headlines. I'm Alex Haynes. Oh, Headlines in Black.
I'm Tiffany Linnell.
I feel like we've been told about ourselves, and I'll say that's that on that.
Yeah, it just is what it is. It's fine. We're going to do better. We're going to try to do better.
Should look like that.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. These are your Black Headlines. Welcome to Black Alerts. And it's important that if you're not reading the news, we bring it to you.
Yes.
This is what's happening. And let's do some celebratory.
Okay.
I'm coffeeless.
Oh.
Celebratory Black news. T.I. and Tiny win $71 million in a lawsuit.
That's a lot of cabbage.
That's a lot of money. That's a reason to celebrate Blackness.
I agree.
And the gist of this story, you stop taking our things. Stop it. Stop taking things
right now.
From a historical standpoint in this country, it goes back since the beginning of us getting here. And mind you, while they took this land from people that were already here, anything that we built, contributed, brought, they also took that.
Yes.
Jack Daniel's whiskey.
Yes. Now Uncle Nearest.
And while there has been some equity restored, I don't ever think that it can being unsaid.
No.
Like it was stolen.
They could never recover the losses that family took on because that white man stole the black man's methods for distilling whiskey.
Friend or foe.
Friend or foe, doesn't matter. It's a beautiful story. And also, y'all stole his methods and recipe for whiskey.
I'm pretty sure that some of y'all did realize that you like these black people once you realized they were your slaves. But your affinity was not friendly, was friendly on your... That's not why we're here. T.I. and Tiny win this lawsuit for $71 million. You may remember a couple of years ago, Tiny's daughter, Tiny and T.I.'s daughter.
Zonique.
Give me the name.
Zonique Star Pullins.
Because I felt like I was about to say something from the Proud family that was not this girl's name. And it was not intentional at all, but also the unique names of that family are unique. Zonique was part of the OMG Girls, which is a girl group that Tiny founded, I believe alongside Toya.
I think so, yes. And
I know there was some affiliation. Toya's daughter was also in the group, I believe. Don't get me quoting it wrong. I know they also did that reality hip hop show, the Hip Hop Kids. I'm butchering the name. Bow Wow was on it.
Hip Hop Kids is crazy.
Something like that.
I'm pretty sure that's not what it was called.
The gist of the story, the OMG Girls, Tiny had dolls created in the likeness of these ladies. They also created these just basically, dolls that they could sell.
Mm-hmm.
A company, MGA Entertainment, based out of California, stole the concept and thought they were going to get away with it. So after this has been to court now 3 times, this last lawsuit, Tiny and T.I. were awarded $71 million. Over $50 million of that is punitive. I'm all over the place this morning.
It should be.
But that's the lesson of keep your hands to yourself. Stop taking things that don't belong to you.
Get your own ideas and designs. And this
message should spread onto TikTok creators.
Yes,
stop taking other people's. Yes. Stop that.
I just was about to say
if you're not creative, and it's interesting. I'm gonna pivot here just for a minute because we're in this political season. But there's a melanated host on the No News Network that is watched by a good portion of Americans, and she you may have wondered why she was also at NABJ when she's never been a member. But she said yesterday that President Kamala Harris should get more creative in her verbiage to describe why she hasn't done anything at the border. And in her creativity, she could stop pivoting and just say that she's learned a lot and she'll do better.
What?
But using that she should get more creative. Didn't pull that clip because I don't like to play trash on our network, but you know, it's interesting that she used that term because I know that probably all of her words aren't given, like she doesn't come up with them on her own. So she's fed a line about being more creative, which is interesting to see how that line is often fed back to a people that have notoriously created a number of things that fuel pop culture. Fuel culture. You seem
I'm at a loss. And that's saying something. But in terms of stealing our stuff, yes, stop doing that. I saw a Black woman who designs dresses and things talking on Threads yesterday about somebody sent her dress on a website, and not only did they try to take the design, they like took her video of her modeling it and put it on their website with the dress. She got them to take it down, but apparently she's not the only creator that they're doing this for. So stop doing this, and you don't have to face a payout of $71 million, $17.8 million in real damages, and
keep your hands off.
$6 million in punitive damages. You know how mad the judge had to be to award over double what you got in real damages and punitive damages? Throw the book, the whole thing. Throw the whole thing. Good for T.I. and Tiny. Congratulations. Let me hold $5. Or, more.
Indeed.
So our next story, we're going to go from celebratory. We'll work our way through. North Carolina deputy suspended after telling Black woman seeking help that he don't want to hear that black crap. I read this story and I just, excuse me, how dare you? The deputy was suspended. It says he was put on administrative leave. Now it doesn't say if it was paid administrative leave or not, but it probably was. They like to put them on administrative leave until they feel like we're not paying attention anymore. But essentially, from what I gathered from the story, a Black woman was at a fair, and a few white folks, went up to her and started talking to her and harassing her about Donald Trump. It became an argument. They were directed to a booth where security was sitting that included this North Carolina deputy. They're going back and forth. He basically tells her, I don't need all of this attitude. I see why they didn't get along with you. And then she says, I'm just standing up for myself. I have an attitude because I'm Black? And he says, I don't want to hear that black crap. Now, there's a lot of things that you can say to me as a Black woman. That's not one of them. That's just not one of them. That's almost as bad.
Who are you talking to?
Who are you talking to? Like, you might as well have said, you folks, you people. Excuse me? Who are you talking to?
Well, it said that we carry a lot of frustration and angled. Not angled is the wrong word. Deep-seated resentment towards common language because of tropes that have been used against us in the past. That's the allegation. But to me, and I'm gonna just be honest, that's a little bit too sophisticated for the people that we're dealing with. So that's really not the case. That's not the case. We're not going to do that. We're not going to add intellect that does not exist. We're
Right. Not
not
to
doing
ignorance.
that.
We're not
Not
going to
doing
do
that.
that.
But I'm going to say this. I will be glad when this finally accepts Donald Trump for the slur that he is. I will be happy when we get to the point that we're saying that name is like a curse word. It's vile.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
because it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Very Voldemort for my Harry Potter friends. Very that. I think one of my biggest issues in this case, but in cases, so many cases like this, is the story comes out, they're put on administrative leave, sometimes paid, sometimes not. Sometimes they're suspended. Sometimes they are fired. That's more rare than it should be, but sometimes they are fired. My issue here is even when they're fired, they can just go get another job with another law enforcement agency, one county over, if even they have to go that far, because though their record follows them, it doesn't follow them. And so there's no cross collaboration or anything like that happening enough where
But
these officers don't get another job on the county or a city over, or their record follows them and the other law enforcement agency just doesn't care.
can
Both
we
are
talk about
really
why
my
that's never going to happen? Like we talk about how that's not going to happen. Like, oh, it's a disjointed problem that we will eventually fix. We're never
no,
going to fix it because one of the tenets of a prominent dying political party in this country is small government, which means
right,
that they don't want to share information. I feel like we're fed so much disingenuous nonsense, mostly from the media, on the ends of like, why can't we just work together? But we're not working towards the same things. So you can't
right,
work together when you're not even working towards the same thing. You're going to
right,
say, one side's going to say, well, I just want to restore patriotism and I want to restore the sanctity of the America. And the other side is like, I want to make America great. And the other side is like, well, no, I want to make it great again. And so when you have full policies in cities that are really, it's either red or blue. And now we define everything by red or blue. Red people want small government. So that means in essence, if you want small government and you don't, and you claim that without it, you have government overreach. With small
right,
government, you don't share information about people with mental illness or people that have been felons and they move into a new area and they buy a gun. But that information is not shared because you don't want big government. Right? So it doesn't go beyond that level of limited foresight because of the really it's bureaucratic nonsense that exists among us, but it's also partisan nonsense. Like
very
you
much so.
vehemently do not want this at all. You've
Right,
read, I've known, I learned about American conservatism, about being about small government. I lived
right,
in what could arguably be one of the largest cities in the country. I grew up there, but it's not because red people want small government. So you've dismantled the power of a city
can't
to
say
create
red.
all of these mini cities with no power and no unity and a government that's essentially broken for the people that live in that metro area. And they
Or
can't
rural
recognize
area,
it because they keep calling it the same name.
right? I think that I also have an issue with I agree with with everything you just said. Let me start there. And also there seemed to have been more cross collaboration when they were slave patrols. And it's not like back then they could reach in their pocket and grab their cell phone and say, I have your slave over here. They had to ride
But
horses. They
somehow
had
that
to
slave made it
run.
back.
But somehow they still were able to
But
get the
somehow,
communication across. I've got your
that's
slave
wild.
up here.
I would say that's a wild accusation, but that is a wild truth.
I was about
The
to
end.
say, find a lie. There was more cross
No, there's
collaboration
no lie. There's no lie. It's
between
just the truth.
plantation owners and the slave patrols, which is the origins of law enforcement agencies in this country, which is a whole other show. They had more cross collaboration then than they do now of ensuring that those who are taking the oath to protect and serve our communities are actually protecting and serving our communities, and not just going out here saying, I don't want to hear that black crap, or choking us, or putting their knee into our neck, or killing us by us, breaking into our apartments with no knock warrants. So I just,
I wish we
that's
could own in on that too, because there's another our for some reason black men keep being hung on trees, and these lynchings are still happening on this land. And I'm sorry that it's just not in the black DNA to go hang yourself
we're
by a
not
tree.
doing that. We're just not. And I have
It's
not
just
confirmed this yet, and we are going to do a whole show about that story. But someone also
it should be a
mentioned to
headline.
me,
It should be a
that's a
headline.
headline. Yeah, but we got to dedicate a whole show to that, because as you said, that's not the first one in recent years. We are not going out to the middle of nowhere hanging ourselves. We're just not doing that.
And to be clear, not to say that a black person is not going to hang themselves. And I can't speak for black skin that is not of black ethnicity. And I'm not throwing shade there. I'm just saying I'm not speaking on that behalf. But there's deep-seated trauma around trees and ropes.
We're not doing that. By and large, we are not doing that. I'm sorry.
Like, I remind you that a noose appeared in the garage of a black race car driver.
Right.
Merely years ago.
Right.
And someone had the gall to allege that he put it there.
Which is crazy as hell. So, yeah, no. When you say stuff like, I don't want to hear that black crap, I'm going to take it as far as I can. But again, we have to do something on the flip side.
Is it crap because it's black?
I just would have had so many questions.
I'm just saying what it sounds like. I would have been in jail. Possibly more than that.
In jail. To stay in that vein, I'm going to move to our next story, which I know we're both very passionate about this. I serve on a board for an organization that works to abolish and advocate against capital punishment, and cases like the one we're about to discuss is why. This is essentially going to be a modern day lynching if this execution continues as scheduled. Marcellus Khalifah Williams is scheduled to be executed today. There have been countless calls, emails, sending social media posts, videos, news articles, all kinds of things and efforts to try and get Governor Mike Parsons in Missouri to change his mind and not execute Mr. Williams. Last night, it was announced that he made the decision to continue on with the scheduled execution. And for anyone who doesn't know about this case, let me just go over some of the details. The case that he was tried and convicted for is for the murder of Felicia Gale, who was a former reporter for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. She was found stabbed to death in her home on August 11th, 1998. And in the 23 years since, Mr. Williams has claimed his innocence, and it's been proven through multiple steps. It's been to every level of the court except the U.S. Supreme Court, which is where it is now. And when I say that's where it is now, I do not mean that they are reviewing the case. Mr. Williams, in a last effort, has requested that the U.S. Supreme Court review this case. This case is happening because, again, he was convicted, but he was convicted on the basis of two unreliable witnesses who were incentivized for their testimony. Their stories did not corroborate each other's. It also didn't corroborate any of the evidence that was on the scene of the crime, that wasn't in any media accounts or anything. that was shared. They didn't have any new information. They didn't have anything that they didn't see in the news. So it was based on this unreliable testimony. There was a plethora of DNA evidence on the scene, fingerprints, trace DNA on the murder weapon that was still present, which was her kitchen knife. There were footprints, hair, none of them. When it went to, I believe it was the Missouri Supreme Court, when it went to them, they essentially had the testing, but they did not include the information. So it was kicked back down. Yeah, 9 years ago, the Missouri Supreme Court stayed Mr. Williams' execution and appointed a special master to review the DNA testing. The DNA testing came back. None of it was linked to Mr. Williams. Not an ounce of the plethora of DNA evidence that was on the scene of the crime linked Mr. Williams to the crime. But because they did not conduct a hearing with this DNA testing, it went back to the court and back to the Supreme Court, but without considering the new DNA evidence and the testing, they again scheduled his execution. Mr. Williams received a stay from the then governor Eric Greitens in 2017. He was about to get his last meal. It was stayed then. But the Board of Inquiry's review in 2023, without warning, without any notice, dissolved the board was dissolved by Governor Mike Parson without a report or a recommendation on Mr. Williams' case. They then scheduled a new execution date, which has come. Faith leaders have been calling out against this. Community leaders have been calling out against this. The victim's family has been calling out against this. The prosecuting attorney's office said that basically there was misconduct in the way that the case was handled. And they dismissed a juror. The previous administration dismissed a juror off of racial bias. So this is a lynching. If this goes on as scheduled, if the U.S. Supreme Court decides to not stay this execution and hear this case, mind you, there are still legal holds in other courts that are ongoing, that are happening. They haven't had a decision yet. Governor Parson is insisting on executing Mr. Williams, despite the overwhelming evidence that there was prosecutorial misconduct. The testimony that this case was hinged on is unreliable, and the DNA doesn't match. None of it matches. And Mr. Williams has maintained his innocence for the last 23 years that he's been in prison. And so the last-ditch effort is the U.S. Supreme Court. But this is my issue with the death penalty or capital punishment. Number one, the Trump administration, and we've said this, we've talked about this before on a plethora of shows and podcasts. The Trump administration re-permitted, however you want to say it, nitrous oxide or the gas chamber, the firing squad, and the electric chair as capital punishment methods. All have been proven to be inhumane for multiple reasons. Not only that, there was a stay during COVID, and the Biden administration was supposed to at least look into creating a federal moratorium on capital punishment. That has not been done. There are a plethora of cases where those who have been executed have later or have posthumously been deemed to be innocent. This is not something you can take back. And when you have the victim's family, DNA evidence, and the prosecutor's office saying this needs to be stayed among the national outcry that has happened in this case, you cannot, and the governor is still deciding to not stay this execution or grant clemency, you cannot tell me that this is not anything but a modern day lynching. There's nothing you can say to me to tell me that this isn't what this is. It's just legal by the court system. Thank you for letting me get all that out.
No issues. While I have severe problems in my own issues with the governor in Missouri, the governor is responsible, but also an elected official. But the enablers are within the Missouri government, and this is not a new issue. And it's something that it's dear to me as someone that was born in Missouri, and have very strong family roots in Missouri. Both of my parents were born in Missouri,
Right.
so I say that, and I'll talk into the difficulty of Black existence in that state, and the tenacity and perseverance of the people that live there, despite this being a constant from their government. Specifically, when they had a former attorney general that fought because of this, who was also raised in that state, that fought to ensure that the wrongfully convicted were exonerated. They fought tooth and nail to get her out. Tooth and nail. To the point of where they tried to prosecute her. They can't find her.
Right.
More than half of the 55 wrongful conviction cases in Missouri have had Black exonerees. And that includes 3 who were sentenced to death. And according to the National Registry of Exonerations database, that tracks back to 1989. Over the last 10 years, death penalty cases in Missouri have declined dramatically after one unanimous jury decision to sentence someone to death. But the current attorney general has also gone out of his way to obstruct the exoneration post the ouster of the previous attorney general. Like, he's going out of his way. Right. And so it's something that continues, and it's a concern for Missouri because it's important to understand that you have elected officials that don't have the best interest of humanity at heart. Right. This is not the best interest for they're keeping our streets safe. No, they're having an illusion of being stern and prosecuting people without evidence.
Right.
And it is fueled by a culture of saying that someone has to pay for the crime, even if we haven't found
the right person.
And that ultimately has always been Black people.
Yes.
Paying for the crimes that and Black people having to deal with that forceful destruction that appears in their family, because it shatters families. It breaks them into fragments.
Literally on both sides.
It's not a consideration because we just need someone to blame and to charge for this, which is insane. It's
insane. Missouri is, according to Death Penalty Info, Missouri is the 3rd state to have the most executions per capita.
I will never not say it. Missouri asked to become a part of the Confederacy. Like, I don't know how you get lower than that. They asked to become a part of the Confederacy because they wanted slaves. Missouri would be paying hell because I would be raising that in their state house every year, bringing that back up.
Absolutely.
Because it's indicative of the policies that they pass and the laws that they pass and the way that they govern.
But again, to your point,
if they could join the Confederacy again today, they would.
Absolutely. But to your point, these are elected positions. Get these people out.
They don't have to be there. That's what you got to understand. They don't have to be there.
They just don't. Mobilize, find you somebody who is for the people, about the people, and get them out. And I'm not just saying that to residents of Missouri. I'm saying that to residents of any state, city, or municipality that if you have an elected official that needs to get out, get them out. Even if there is an appointed official that needs to get out, look at who appoints that position, because it's probably someone who's elected. Go have a conversation with them to get that person out. And if they don't listen, then get that person out. Like, We have the power in our hands to do something about stuff like this, to elect governors who won't insist on modern day lynchings, to elect governors who won't have an attorney general who go out of their way to make sure that someone is executed despite overwhelming evidence that they're innocent. Like, we have the power to make the changes and to be the change that we want to see. I do not want to see another innocent person be executed. And then 2, 5, 10 years down the road, they say, oh, yeah, oops, our bad. That person actually was innocent. Here's the person who really did it. It's too late.
I am deaf to oops.
I cannot. I can't do it. And this is abysmal. This is an abysmal miscarriage of justice.
It's not something I accept on this land. I won't accept that.
I need a miracle to happen. I need a miracle to happen. And so I'm just praying that a miracle happens for Mr. Williams, because this is an intentional miscarriage of justice and they should be ashamed. We got some more stories to get through. So, but we will continue to follow that and many others, because that's not the only execution scheduled for this week, unfortunately. California is suing ExxonMobil, alleging that they lied to the public for 50 years, promising that plastics it produced would be recycled. I think that this is the first case of maybe a few, because the capitalism of plastics and recycling is a very interesting rabbit hole to go down. And I know when we were talking about this before, I said I went down a rabbit hole looking at just the amount of companies who have created plastics and have made a business out of even that. You'd be amazed how many water companies own the bottling companies or have a stake in them, and then say, this is recyclable. But if you really follow the path of recycling, it's not what people think. What do you think?
I just think that never put your trust in corporations. They don't tell the truth.
Well,
and I don't really care what they say, because they're lying. There is always a motive. There is always a lie. And if you follow the money, you'll find out that you've been lied to over and over and over and over again. You'll find out there's money, that is preventing you having the right foods in your grocery store. There's money that is preventing, like, there's so many things that are preventing your health, things that are preventing your abilities, things that are preventing your mobility, things that are preventing your financial success. Even the types of places, we went through it yesterday about the disparities in this country just between living in one place and the other, and the I see you as a human versus I want you to come here and be a slave.
Right. I'm still upset about that. But no, you're right. We talk about this all the time, and I know you and I are always saying it to everybody. Anytime the conversation comes up, you go to other countries and you lose weight, you feel better, you have more energy, you don't have to take a bunch of vitamins and supplements and all of these other things, because
you can breathe.
You can breathe. You can breathe. You can
breathe. You can move.
You can move. You can eat the lettuce. You can walk. You can eat the chicken.
I mean,
chicken over there, like it's and not have to worry about, am I going to feel,
is this killing me
for 3 days? Is this killing me? I don't have to eat a salad and say, am I going to see a recall for this in 4 days after I've already got food poisoning from it? Like, you don't have to necessarily worry about that as much in other countries, because guess what? Their federal agencies actually, I don't know, ban things like asbestos. And they don't wait.
They would just never let you have what.
No,
they would never willingly give their citizens a country that prides itself on saying and has people literally running saying that we want more babies anyway, anyhow, but we will kill them once they get here. Like, that is insane to me. Or we won't support them when they get here.
Crazy. ExxonMobil is, I know some folks are listening like, ExxonMobil, the gas company? Yes, ExxonMobil is one of the world's largest producers of plastics, and Attorney General Rob Bonta's office said that less than 5% of plastic is recycled into another plastic product in the US, even though the items are labeled as quote unquote recyclable. But
Because they
landfills,
lie.
oceans, they lie.
Because
They
they lie.
they
They
destroy
lie.
toxic waste, or they release toxic waste into water streams that go into predominantly marginalized and disenfranchised communities. It's filling up our oceans and our landfills. Again, the landfills, which are usually in marginalized and disenfranchised or rural communities. So you're creating climate waste, climate injustice, environmental hazards, and then you're not even recycling. You're not even saying what you're doing. You're supposed to. Less than 5% are recycled into products in the US.
None
That's
of this is a
crazy.
surprise, but it's very sad.
It's horrible and very sad. I hope the state of California wins. And there are some other lawsuits from other municipalities and cities and states um, that are suing oil and gas companies for their role in climate change because it's hot as hell, y'all. And I just don't know any other way to say that. Also in the news, a strike in Lebanon yesterday killed at least 558, including at least 90 women and children. Uh, for those who are not aware, Lebanon has been involved in the Israel Hamas war due to Lebanon essentially trying to counterattack Israel, and they were basically bucking at each other for a little bit. This is a very black summary of this, but they were bucking at each other for a little bit, and then finally, they were like, we're just going to go ahead and fire at you. And so now they're battling. Israel retreated a little bit in order to attack Lebanon, but not too much. There was another attack in Gaza yesterday as well, I believe, killing 4. We are at least 41,000 deaths in Gaza. And I'm gonna say it every time we talk about this. This war did not start on October 7th. It did not start on October 7th.
Well, I also think a reminder to our community and the Black community on why this matters.
You want me to give that?
No, I'm just saying. I think that we should just put that at the forefront. I do hear often from Black people saying, "I would love to focus on this, but
I got to get.
I have things going on. Where is Lebanon?" Right? So,
Yes.
and okay, that's sad. And
I need groceries.
Exactly.
And gas is
or
expensive
it's just
here.
that, and I've never been to Lebanon, never plan to go.
Right.
And we are such a disconnected society. And I thought we focus on Black people here, but in America, that's how we are.
Yes.
So, and it's just you see that because there is a concern when you hear the first story. But once you hear, and that's also the goal, that's the tactic. People get bogged down. And so when you're focused or when you work in something, then you hear it all the time, then you think that everyone's hearing the same thing, and everyone's not.
Right.
I think when it comes to the same thing with this election, and that the president that we've already fired once, but he likes to wear people out. Like, you're so worn out. Like, you just want it to go away.
Right.
And we just become desensitized. This is just a natural human characteristic. But I also think it's important to put into context. When like you said, this did not begin on October 7th.
Right.
But when the outcry became world news, I don't know this young man's name. He's a young lad from TikTok.
Not a
Never
young
seen him
lad.
again. But what I will say is that he says, and I say, and why you should care about this strike. When you look at you're trying to figure out what's going on, you can't figure it out. You don't speak the language, and you don't know the names. You don't know where it's at. Once you figure out who the niggas are in the situation, that's where you need to put your support. And it's kind of the planet that we live on. Like, if you've seen some people dominating, it's very rare. We've got underdogs that take over. Shout out to Haiti. But when you do win something, you spend the next 400 years fighting for your life in every way with no one supporting you.
Literally. And Haiti was.
So when there's a nation next to you that can cut your lights off,
yes,
you should be celebrating them.
Right. Yes.
I don't have a problem telling Mexico. I understand why y'all don't celebrate the United States being your neighbor. I understand that.
I get it. The United States of Mexico. I want everybody to look up a map of Mexico because they didn't show it to us while we were in school in this country. It was all the state. You had to learn all the states of the United States. You had to label them. Our teachers tried to make us color, but we weren't coloring.
When they showed you Mexico, they showed you cities.
If that, it was just a landmass.
It would be United States, and then mass Mexico.
I rarely saw.
And I don't know if Canada was broken into provinces.
It was not. Again, United States, landmass. Like it was very, which again is why anytime I see someone on social media say the world is bigger than the United States, I'm like, thank you, because I don't think a lot of people haven't left their.
I hear that argument, and I know that's a fact, but here's why that does not matter. The United States, I can't say what I was just about to say, but the United States dominates, although it is a very small portion, like less than 96% of the world.
Yes.
But has a dominating force over the entire planet.
Yeah. And we're not doing
so we don't have to, that's my point.
We're not doing
that's my point.
We're bigly bad. You and I had this conversation when
if people use the T word to reference the United States, I understand that.
Okay.
Because what else are you? If you are less, you're 4%, almost 4% of the world's population.
But you have more of your people per capita in prison, more mass shootings than any other developed.
You have military bases, almost in every other country, and you've deemed that sovereign United States territory.
Yes.
In their house,
on their land,
and then you started to say, "Oh, we'll give y'all some room here. We'll give you the houses."
Yeah. After you continuously push indigenous populations, communities, and tribes off of their land. If you have not seen Lakota Nation versus the United States, I highly, highly, highly recommend viewing that or requesting a screening in your area, because garbage. and I'm gonna just leave that at that, because we got one more story. And this one,
this one actually is dear to my heart.
Yeah.
Sam Jackson is speaking out, and the headline is, "I've done some shit in my marriage." Now, after 44 years of marriage to his wife, LaTanya, you would imagine that they have been through something, right? That would be a logical thing to assess. But he recently said in a sit down with AARP magazine, explained that he and his wife, or what he and his wife have done to hold their marriage together for 4 decades. He says a lot of tolerance because everyone's got flaws, and not giving up when it would be easy to give up. I've done shit in my marriage that's crazy, you know. She has too, in her head or whatever, in reality. But you got to go, is that a breakup offense? Or is it that we just need to spend a little time together and get some understanding about it? Now, I think that most people think that they can come to that point of where they can sit and have a logical conversation with a person that they're in a relationship with. But the stats show that that's not true.
Right.
Like from divorce rates to breakup rates. You people
Right.
are unstable, and then you just go get with these people and thinking that the person is gonna bring your stability.
Right. No, no, no.
My
You
good
have to find that.
friend in my head, Whoopi Goldberg, wrote a book called "If Someone Says You Complete Me, Run."
Run.
And that is a fact. The book is amazing. The audio book is even better. But if someone is saying, and you think that that person is the thing that you need to seal the deal or to get the baby so you can seal the deal, no. Like you
No.
are sick and you need help. And I'm not saying like you're not alone. So don't feel bad that I'm calling you sick. You are sick and you need help because you
Right.
think somebody else is going to come and complete you. And that's just not going to be the case. And there will people will look you in your face and say that they hear you and they still are going to believe that. They're still going to. And then when they find that person, typically the dream person in your head is trash. Okay.
Yes.
The dream person in your head is
Yes.
trash.
Yes. Yes.
They're gonna have a component that you think you really, really want, and you're gonna get that component. I will never forget that I had a crush of like 10 years. And I will end by saying that was probably the worst attempt at sex I have ever had in my life. Now back to Sam L. Jackson. He says that there are certain things that you learn to ignore about people, and there are certain things that she's learned to ignore about me. And one of the things she had to accept is that I'm going to go to work and I'm going to go all the time, until it's time. He went on to say that in the 70s, just as he was getting his career going, he was fighting drug addiction, which he credits his wife for saving him. He told people that he was not a present husband to LaTanya or a father to his daughter, Zoe Jackson. He says, I had basically moved into the basement of our brownstone. I was like the troll in the basement, and every now and then I'd come upstairs and hover around to do something. I was addicted and being crazy. Jackson decided to get clean after his wife and daughter found him passed out on the kitchen floor after cooking cocaine on the stove. Recounting the details of that day in a 60 Minutes interview, he said, I never got to smoke, and the next day I was in rehab. I didn't go kicking and screaming. I was tired. He got clean in 1991, but he says, I credit her because she could have just taken Zoe and walked out and been done with me, but she didn't. That's a greater love than I will ever know. Amazing story from an amazing man, an amazing couple, LaTanya Jackson. If you see them together, you will notice, and if you watch some of his movies, you'll see that she may be there.
Literally, the bylaws say
she may be there. Well, and he wasn't in that one with her.
He wasn't in that one, but she was, and I will.
But I went back and I watched. What was that? It was really about the blacks. Also on trial. Julia Roberts, Samuel Jackson.
Where he's wearing glasses.
Was he?
I think he was wearing glasses in that movie.
Whatever that Mississippi was, it was in Mississippi. I can't think of it. Pulp Fiction, I think he was wearing glasses.
I guess he's worn glasses in a few of them.
Possibly so. I mean, he's Sam Jackson.
Yeah,
he was doing the damn thing. I mean, that is what it is. But when I looked up and saw her in that movie, which I mean, his catalog is so long. I've been scrolling since we started the story to find it. Which is insane. My goodness. I mean, a career unmatched.
Amazing. And I think that for him to be so transparent and vulnerable about his struggles and about that kind of love, when you find that kind of love, like, don't let it go, because
a love that held him down.
A love that held him down. A love that literally sounds like saved his life.
A Time to Kill.
Yes. I could see him in the courtroom.
Yep,
Um,
McConaughey, Jackson, Spacey, Jackson, Bullock,
yeah. I
and LaTanya Jackson.
by law say it's just a great role. I think that so many times you mentioned the divorce rates and everything else, and folks are just out here just picking folks because, oh well, I got pregnant, we got pregnant, so we had to get married, or whatever. No, choose the right partner. I just can't stress that enough. Not someone who completes you, because you shouldn't have someone who is completing you. You should be complete. Not that you're perfect or whole in your healing, because a
We're not
healing
gonna be
journey is
complete
forever.
until it's over.
We're not going to be complete, but they should not. You should not
That's
be
what
looking for
complete means.
someone else to complete
People
you.
are
Like,
saying "well done" over your dead body or your ashes. That's
yeah,
when it's
no,
complete.
yeah, no. Find someone who enhances you. Find someone who challenges you. Find someone who makes you better. Find someone who can hold you down when they find you passed out on your kitchen floor. That's the kind of love that is just unmatched.
Yeah,
Unmatched.
I
That's
just
partnership. That's not just love, and that's not just
these are the
marriage.
stories
That's
that
partnership.
I want to see.
Yeah, that's partnership. And there's a difference between just marrying someone and finding a partner.
When we're going down together. We're coming up together. It makes a
Bad boys for
difference.
life.
It makes a difference.
Bad boys for life. So yeah, I believe
Bad
they met
boys
in
for
school.
life.
I was trying to look it up,
I don't know how deep you want to go with that, but
go with what?
bad boys.
All right. I'm not going deep at all. It was just saying. Um I think they also started as friends, if I'm not mistaken. I think they met in school. She is a Spelman sister. He did attend Morehouse. I'm almost positive that's where they met, and I feel like I should know this about them. But um, yeah, I think they were friends first, and just find you a partner, not just a girlfriend or a boyfriend or a husband. Because some of y'all have husbands and wives, and y'all aren't partners. You're roommates.
Well, I mean, marriage was originally done as an arrangement.
It was. How'd that work out?
I mean, who's to say that it ever stopped being that?
That's going to do it for headlines this morning. This has been lovely. We're going to keep doing this, and
I'm
bringing you
just
the stories
saying.
that are important to our communities and to your communities. If you have questions or comments about any of the stories that we covered today, or you see something that you think deserves to be on the headlines, let us know. You can message us at Black Alerts, BLK Alerts on Threads. I think on Twitter. I don't know. I don't open that app anymore. But hit us up. We're also on Instagram. Send us stories. Um, Comment, and make sure you are subscribed to Black Alerts on
Absolutely.
blackalerts.com, blkalerts.com. And you can find me at Tiff Linnell on Instagram and at Threads, and at Tiffany Linnell on TikTok.
I'm Alex Haynes in New York. Alex Unmuted everywhere. Have a good day.